Well, hello, friends. Welcome one and welcome all. I can't offer much in this outdoor hall, but sit here and rest. You must be weary, and I'll share with you Tales of Tyria. Welcome one, welcome all, welcome to another exciting episode of Tales of Tyria, right here on the Sound Strategy Network. I am Bridger, and today we're talking all about guild halls. That's right, the upgrade systems, what you can get from them, and of course, which one is better? Yes, welcome everyone. Welcome. Tales of Tyria, the place where we discuss the deep questions about Guild Wars 2. Again, I am Bridger. This is a production of Legacy Gaming and the Sound Strategy Network. So welcome, guys. We've got a great show for you today, however you may have found it. Let's jump right into it, shall we? I've got my good friend Freelancer with me. Welcome, sir.
Hey, guys.
And we are here today to talk about guild halls. But before we get there, we've got a couple other things that we usually go into, including a little segment called Story Time, because since the last show, I have successfully completed Dragon Stand with the rest of Legacy a number of times. And that is a pretty epic fight. I have to say, it is way better than the Zaitan fight. And it would be hard to get any worse than the Zaitan fight, to be honest.
I don't think spamming the cannon on Zaitan equates as a fight, but okay.
No, it required quite a bit.
You've already given it more credit than I would.
So. Yes, it's true. It's true. Press F to pay your respects to Zaitan, and then watch him die. So
yeah,
the big giant meta event chain that requires a lot of coordination among people. The one that I participated in this past week. We kind of had to carry the rest of the map with us. They didn't understand the best way to get past the gates, essentially, the 3 gates.
Yeah.
And those seem harder than the final boss, don't they?
Not anymore, but I mean, yeah, they were back then. You got the triple lane idea. It's very similar to kind of Triple Trouble. You got to coordinate multiple groups at the same time, and if just one group has no clue what they're doing, it's just everybody gets frustrated, and people start leaving the map. But I think nowadays, I don't know how often you've been out there lately, Bridger, but the pugs seem to just know what to do. They'll go out there and they'll run around in a circle, which is not exactly my favorite way of doing it, but it seems to be easy enough for everybody to do it. Still ignoring all the other mechanics that are supposed to make the fight easier, like going down under with the pods and killing those down there. But hey, it works.
Yeah, and it's got a critical mass of people that know what's going on, and the people that don't know what's going on can join in and still succeed and learn, as opposed to coming in, not understand what's going on, fail, and not come back. We've gotten past that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, all right, do you want to win? Yes or no? All right, that's what you ask the pug. They ask themselves, yes, I want loot. I like shinies. I like Diablo 3. And okay, if you want to win, follow my commander icon, or follow this commander tag. If you don't get shinies. And they follow. It works. It doesn't get much simpler than that. I mean, so long as the pugs actually, follow a commander tag, most pug maps they succeed now. I think it succeeds almost every single event now, and especially during prime time.
Yeah, especially since they fixed that problem with Maguma not having, not like when you get into Maguma, it would just be empty, and you're like, what? Mega server, what have you done? Have you forsaken me? They fixed that, and ever since then, I've never been into a Maguma jungle zone that wasn't full of people, so that's very good to have seen fixed.
Yeah, there's such an easier way to do that map, Dragon Stand 2, and it's a little disappointing nobody's going to do it, but there's a whole other element to the map of getting the mastery that allows you to sit in the poison and then running down below and killing those, and that prevents the spawns, and then you don't have to run around as a giant blob zerg and kill everything because they're already dead and they stay dead, and you can just wait, and just keep those down. But
I
I
think
mean,
that that's going to become the de facto standard once enough of the population gets that poison mastery.
perhaps, yeah, perhaps. It's just so much easier right now to run around as a blob. That's what people know and what they're used to. But regardless, the map's a ton of fun. The dragon is a ton of fun.
He eats the
Uh,
islands you're standing on. It's
I
such
mean,
a cool fight.
I mean, most of the legacy folks, we came from Arcage, right? So the biggest, baddest boss in Arcage, I mean, it was. I mean, I guess you could say technically the Red Dragon, but that came out later. I mean, even that doesn't compare to the mouth of this dragon eating the island you're on. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. And there's nothing better, like when we're bringing new players into the map, there's nothing better than watching them, telling them, if you see the dragon hovering over the island, looking down at you, jump off. And normally, normally the funny thing is when we say, jump off the cliff with me, they're like, no, I'm not jumping off the cliff after you. They don't want to do that. But no, in this case, you want to jump off the cliff. But yeah, it's funny seeing all those players dropping dead and learning like what was that and just the whole mechanic. Everybody's awestruck when they first go in there. It was really well designed.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it a lot. I still haven't even like everybody just ported through to the final zone. We had like one person that had made it to the final zone. Everybody's like, well, this is a reason to use those, teleport to a friend things I've been sitting in my bank for forever. So we basically got our entire guild ported through to the final zone. I still have never been in the third zone, and I've only been in parts of the second zone at the moment.
You haven't
but
been in Tangled Depths?
I do want to go and explore those, but I've been focused mostly on World v World and the Dragon Stand that we've been doing when we're doing guild stuff.
Yeah, Tangled Depths has its own little event chain like that. A lot of guilds recently are starting to finish it. We haven't attempted it yet, but there was a couple of posts on Reddit. It has a similar concept. There's these different lanes, and then it converges in on a center point, and you have to defend it. Initially, not many people had a reason to do it or try it, and arguably even now, there's not much reward for doing it, but it still involves a lot of that coordination. For some reason, ArenaNet in this last year really loves the 3-lane concept between Silver Waste, Dragon Stand, Tangled Depths,
and Triple
they
Trouble.
just love the 3-way. That's just their thing. Somebody in ArenaNet just loves the idea of League of Legends and playing League, and they want to implement League with NPCs, and that's what it's become.
Well, 3 is the magic number, right? Like in any video game, like you kill the boss, but you have to hit him in his weak spot 3 times. Like the first time, the second time, and the third time he finally dies. 3 is always the number, right? It's like a video game magic number. So yeah, I mean, 2 would be too easy to coordinate. 4 would be too hard. 3 is perfect. So that's probably where that all stems from.
Yeah, but it's done well though. It's done well. It's very enjoyable.
Andrew Graves says that Tangled Depths has 4, actually. So there's actually 4 different things that you have to coordinate.
Oh, wait, let me look here. I may have missaid that. Let's see. I'm actually bouncing around at the events right now.
I know that...
Andrew's correct. There is 4.
Yeah, I know
that goes to show, like I said, we haven't actually brought our guild yet there to give it a good go. But yeah, there's 4 lanes there, and then it still converges on that center point. And from what I hear, it's very hard. It's not easy to do. Like, we were just saying, joking around how Dragon Stand, you could pretty much do it by chasing a commander icon. I don't think many guilds, if not pugs ever, can probably do Tangled Depths. I'll have to bring you out there, Bridger. Let you see what it's all about.
Yeah, I definitely want to go out there because one of the things I enjoy about the game is how the maps each have their own sort of story of what's going on, and I enjoy playing through them once. I actually do enjoy doing the map completion. I wouldn't want to go back and grind those maps over and over again, but I like going through them once and seeing, okay, what kind of events are going on here. There's some really interesting and intriguing and enjoyable and sometimes funny events going on. Like they have you doing weird stuff that you wouldn't learn about unless you went and explored. That's what makes, one of the big pillars of this game as compared to many others of its kind is the exploration really does reveal things that you wouldn't find because there aren't arrows pointing to it. Like there's I think we talked about it way back when, but if you read the books about Destiny's Edge, there is a clearing in just this clearing in a grove of trees, in, I think it was one of the branded zones that have like, I think it's the one that the Shatterer is in, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just it's basically got the gravesite of one of the characters in that book, and I'm not gonna, no spoilers if you haven't read the books, but you just happen upon it. If you
I think I still have
Ghosts of
yeah,
Ascalon.
Yeah. One second.
Oh, he's pulling it out. Mine's upstairs somewhere, so I don't get to be cool. There it is.
Ghosts of Ascalon.
Yeah.
Ghosts of Ascalon. That's what it is. Ghosts of Ascalon.
So,
and there's actually a follow-up book too, or there's another one, but very good.
It was
book.
supposed to be a trilogy.
I'm not a lore guy, but I enjoyed this book.
Yeah, it was a fun adventure. Anyway, so I mean, I haven't actually even gone through and done like I guess it's still called the personal story, right? For this expansion, like all those green things. I did the one in order to get into the Maguma jungle, but after that I was like, wee gliders! And I was just like, I do want to find out more about what's happening, especially if Traherne turns out to be the bad guy and I get to kill him. Like, I am so involved in that.
The story, exactly the story for the whole expansion, no spoilers, is really, really well done. They did, again, I'm not a huge story guy, but I actually enjoyed the way they did it. They put a lot of work into it. They closed a lot of loopholes, a lot of the open-ended stuff that happened in the original story. The way it closed at the end, with Zaitan on the original, which was kind of non-eventful, right? Well, it's very different as you get up through the story in Heart of Thorns. It's pretty good.
I'd be interested to know if they intended people to get to Dragonstand so quickly, because it appears that
no.
I don't think so, because the third zone, as I understand it, you can't get to the fourth zone unless you successfully complete the third zone, which is very difficult, as I've been told a number of times. In the chat, somebody said only 3 guilds have actually completed it. I'm not sure if that's correct at this point, but the first few people that got through said, oh yeah, just use teleport to friend, and just everybody bypassing that super hard zone that's supposed to keep people from getting to Dragonstand. Okay, well then.
I think everybody in every guild was like, do you have teleport to friend stones? And that was pretty much
somebody
the thing.
in the chat says that my original, but what somebody told me was that you couldn't get to the fourth zone, but now they're saying you can just run through
for a long time, people thought, you're right and wrong. For a long time, across most of the game, people thought you could only get in by completing the event at the Leyline Confluence, and then they didn't bother checking before they came to that conclusion, because there's this gate there that opens up. They didn't come to the actually explore the other corners, but there is 2 ways of getting into the final area.
Oh, so they found the
for
second
most people
now.
though.
Okay.
Like for most people across the game, they didn't explore into Tangled Depths yet. So for them, it's like, wait, there's this huge dragon event. I want to get to it, but you tell them, okay, well, first you got to go through Auric Basin, then you got to go through Tangled Depths. And I don't know about you, if you've been to those zones, Bridger, but those zones themselves can be sort of a maze.
And they're huge.
So
I've been to Auric Basin
for a lot of people,
they're
it was, okay, well, if you want to participate in this dragon stand, you can't just simply rush over to this zone. Do you have a teleport to Friendstone? And that's where everybody was spamming them. So, it was just the easiest way of doing it. To this moment now, I mean, we still have people that are asking, how to get to it, and we just show them the second passage going into the zone. But you still have to get to that point. And, I mean, honestly, people say it's hard traversing through the zones. I don't really think it is. Usually, if you stay on the ground floor, they're relatively straightforward. Verdant Brink, even with a basic glider, you can get from point A to point B not too bad.
No,
I think before people call them, mazes it's impossible to get through, they're just not really giving them a shot.
Every zone seems to have a mastery that makes it much easier to get around that zone. Like Verdant Brink, like the mushrooms makes things so much easier. The glider obviously makes things so much easier for all the zones, but the mushrooms make Verdant Brink a lot better. But then there's this New Hawk mastery, I believe, that lets you sort of use these teleportation things in the second zone, if I'm not mistaken. At least that's what I haven't finished unlocking it, but that seems to be what happens with it. Because there are situations where you're like in that giant golden city, and I'm like, I want to go just like on the other side of this, oh, you have to run up 16 flights of stairs to get up this stupid cliff. And I'm like, oh, okay. Or it appears to be this thing that I can touch that'll teleport me over to where the event's going. I literally tried to run from the center once that thing kicked off, and there's like 4 different things that happen around the outside of the city, and you have to go and do each of them. I tried to get to any of them, and it took me too long, and the event was over by the time I got there. I was like, well, maybe I'll come back after I finish that one mastery.
We have members that are capping out masteries right now. They're at 100 and something crazy, like 150 plus, wow. And they're capping out both the Tyria mastery and the, I guess you call it Maguma mastery. And they're doing it just basically grinding mobs, and there's basically areas where you can farm mobs that haven't been attacked in a while. You know how you get extra experience, and so they'll hit those areas in the Maguma zones, specifically Tangled Depths and Auric Basin, where players have already gone through. They have no reason to go back, but there's all these mobs there, and they're all level 80, 81. So they farm those mobs, and they activate all of their XP boosters, while they're doing it, and they power level it. It seems to be more efficient, depending on who you ask, than grinding like Dragon Stand events specifically. And then they'll go to Citadel of Flame and farm the path, there to max out that experience. And it's people are already capping out the game. This progression was. I don't know how long ArenaNet intended it, but it's being completed right now. And I know we're not the only guild. There's probably tons of guilds out there that have tons of members that are just capping out all the masteries. There's those little workarounds. You just got to find them.
Yeah. So we actually just jumped into like this whole. This actually ties into our feedback where we were talking about the Maguma jungle last week. But I wonder. I mean, this is something that kind of goes into what I was going to rant about. But the fact that Dragon Stand gives such ridiculously good rewards, and there's so much stuff you can get in there, from like the hero points that unlock once you beat the dragon to the masteries that you can get in there, the mastery points rather. But plus they've got like that one troll orichalcum node. I don't remember I should have taken video of it, but that. After we finished the Dragon Stand, there's one node where there's like a wyvern that just like rolls fire all over this orichalcum node, but only after like 3 or 4 people try to go. It's like, it's a rich orichalcum node, and the wyvern's like, no, you're not taking that, and just drops huge amounts of lava right on top. There's like the entire guild wiped trying to
we need to see
node.
An updated heat map of player deaths in Heart of Thorns. I would love to see that, like where they show the maps and there's a heat map showing where players have died the most, just to see like what mob. Like those are always the most interesting things, and they tell the most fancy stories, like of that one little area you never think players die, but then you go there and you find like one mob hits you, which stops your jump properly across the cliff, and you fall to your death, or something like that. They did this for World v World, if you remember. They did heat maps, right. And Guild Wars 2, ArenaNet in general, they have these heat maps. They use them often to judge where player movement is, and where combat's happening, and where a quest is too hard, or where something's too easy, or where players have never been. It's really interesting stuff. I believe a lot of games do this, especially shooters.
But, yeah, definitely. I mean, I've seen heat maps Valve has released things like Counter-Strike heat maps that show, here's Dust 2, here's where people die the most. And I mean, it's exactly what you'd expect if you play a lot of Dust 2. Like they're in exactly the places where both teams confront each other the majority of the time.
I saw a fun little video on YouTube of like basically looking up statistics of deaths through old console games. And like the original Mario, like the highest death count was right there when the Goomba walks up to you. It really? Just kills you. Because players don't know how to jump yet, so they were tracking that sort of stuff. It's a lot of fun stuff. But anyways, we're off topic.
We are. We've gone off the rails. So let's get back to it here. So we did get a little bit of feedback from some people last time where we were talking about the jungle. Marnik sent in some feedback to the email. Said, depends on your perspective. The zones are not linear, and the event chain's neither easy nor obvious. A bit of investment is necessary to figure out what's going on. Some people just don't like that. I think he's right there. I think that to be honest, once I spent a little time in the zone, for example, like Verdant Brink, it became clear that those things on the map are like places they're scouts, so they're similar to the scouts in the other zones, but instead of having like the binoculars or the telescope, whatever, they have just this symbol. It's like, oh, this is a thing that has to be built up over time, and you have to go there and you'll find out what events are going on around you. And once I started to do that, I started to learn what was going on, and then you have that nighttime period where you can go up into the sky, and so the more time you spend in a zone, the more sense it makes. And I think that adds its own little bit of progression of how you're learning of what's going on here. If it was immediately apparent and it was super easy and obvious, then it wouldn't have that same effect. I kind of like it.
I think a lot of these players that are complaining about like they don't know what to do or where to go, they're skipping past like the quest text and stuff. They're not giving it a chance, and they're just expecting to know, like have stuff thrown at them. It's
have a big arrow.
But that's one of my rants for another time, another game. But it's everybody's in that Farmville, super casual mindset where they can't go exploring for what they need to find. They want it told to them. This is where it is. You need to go here, and they're so used to that. Like I've heard a few people say that where they don't know where to go, or the quest text is or they actually don't read the quest text. They just say, I'm clueless, where do I go? How do I get my glider? Like that drives me insane. Like people that have not stepped into Heart of Thorns yet, they're like, this is stupid. I can't get my glider. I don't know how to do it. How do I join? They haven't even tried to read the quest text. They haven't tried to do the mission yet. They just want to give it to them. But yeah, I said I wouldn't rant, so I'm going to stop there.
To be fair, I think the mastery interface is, it's intuitive after you understand what's going on, but that's not what intuitive means, right? Intuitive means you can figure it out without having to know ahead of time anything important. But it is a little bit counterintuitive in the sense that you have to, like, choose a track. Okay, we've done that in PvP, but then you fill it up with XP, but then when you fill it up, it doesn't instantly just go. You then have to go in and spend a mastery point. I feel like once it fills up, if you have the points, it should just automatically spend it. That might help make it more obvious to people instead of just bumping in your corner going, hey.
Lagging a little bit on YouTube there, Bridger.
All right, we'll try and cut some things down even further here. I'm going to drop down this to 450 kbps on Twitch. I got to upgrade my internet apparently. Sorry, guys.
Is it your upload?
It's my upload. I'm trying to maintain Twitch and YouTube, so I'm working on it again. Let's see if that fixes it. If anybody else is having problems, let me know. I'll just drop Twitch and everybody can go to YouTube, and it'll be disappointing. So let's move on now. So that's our feedback from last week. If you have any feedback about this episode or any questions you think that we should discuss, send it to feedback@talesofshow.com. So if you have any questions about Guild Wars 2 that you think would be great for the show, go ahead and send them in. Feedback@talesofshow.com. Now, Freelancer tries to avoid going on a rant, and for that I thank him, because there is already enough discontent here. Because I am sitting here and I am feeling a little bit frustrated. And when I get frustrated, it usually causes me to get angry. And when I get angry, I've got to vent. And we call that a Bridger rant. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I've been reading tons of posts about people having issues with Heart of the Thorns, which is, of course, that's the case. Of course, right after expansion comes out, most of the people that are enjoying it are off playing it, and the people who are not are ranting on the forums. That's all well and good. It's the tyranny of the minority, the loudest voices, blah, blah, blah. But they all seem to have one thing in common. They're all trying to solve the problems that they've identified by adjusting the size of the carrot. And that just doesn't seem to make any sense to me. For example, World versus World, people are saying, World versus World rewards are still garbage. They're still, compared to everybody's PvE, and because World versus World doesn't give you anything for playing it. You know what? Counter-Strike doesn't give me no, that's a bad example, because Counter-Strike gives me stuff. Team Fortress 2 doesn't, no, Team Fortress 2 gives me stuff now, too. Where's the games of yore? The games that I used to play because I actually enjoyed playing them, not because I would get stuff at the end of it. Oh, man, that makes my head hurt. But that's the thing, is they're trying to adjust problems that they see as by adjusting the size of the carrot. Like, oh, if we just made World v World rewards equal to PvP or better than or more unique stuff, that would make World v World better. No, it would make World v World more of a job. Because what is it when you do something, not for the enjoyment of the thing itself, but for the stuff you get at the end? That's called work. That's a job. I don't want to play games as a job. I want to play games because I enjoy them. I play World v World because I enjoy the actual process of playing World v World. Trying to figure out, okay, how do we take that keep? How do we defend that keep? How do we attack these guys? It looks like they're too strong. Let's try and go do something else. Like, that process and trying to figure that all out, that's enjoyment to me. But if I was only playing it for the bouncy chest I got at the end of it, I'd have quit a long time ago, okay? That's all I'm saying. We don't need to look at just the size of the carrot that counts. It's the taste of the carrot. That counts also.
Did you just make that up on the spot?
I did. I should have planned it. It sounded like I should, but yes. The size of the carrot doesn't matter. It's the taste. It's true. You know what? That's the problem I have with pretty much every MMO freelancer, is they all try to compel you to do something for the reward at the end, instead of making the reward being the actual challenge and enjoyment and mastery of the thing you're doing in the first place.
Fair enough.
But, to be fair, Guild Wars 2 does a better job of making those things enjoyable than many of the others that I've played. So let's not think that I'm sitting here bashing Guild Wars 2 for following the same successful formula that every other MMO's followed, okay? But I've seen the same thing. People say, oh, dungeon rewards getting nerfed. Why would anybody do dungeons anymore? I don't know, because it was fun? Like, if you were only doing dungeons... I'm getting back in the same thing. Anyway, let's talk about guild halls. Guild halls. All right, so... It looks like people are still complaining about lag. I'm going to shut down the Twitch. I'm just going to post a link to the YouTube in the Twitch there.
Twitch got a lot more people on it than YouTube. You might want to flip.
All right.
Because you could always upload your Twitch video.
I can always upload my Twitch video, but so far it's been extremely low quality. Let's see what happens. People on YouTube, let me know if this fixes. I'm going to do one more adjustment with the upload.
He's fixing his internet, guys, so it's not going to always be like this.
Yeah, we're going to try and fix this for next week. I'm going to pay to get better internet. We'll see if that helps. It used to work fine. I've been doing Tales of Citizens for 30 episodes now and never had a single issue until recently, when I think my cable company cracked down on the amount of upload they were giving us and then want to charge us more to get a better deal. So we'll see how that comes out. Constructive criticism isn't complaining, Arctics. No, constructive criticism is constructive. So let's talk about guild halls with that in mind. So Free, I think the world wants to know, which guild hall is best? The Gilded Hollow.
You didn't prep me for that one, Richard.
No, I guess I didn't. But no, we had the desert one. What the heck? We have
both now, or I guess we swapped. So we're able to do both. But we had the Lost Precipice. Now we have the Gilded Hollow, just to give the guild members a chance to see how it looks. So which one's better? That's what you want to know?
Yes. Because that's the eternal fight.
In
everybody.
What way?
Well, everybody's going to have a preference. I just wanted to throw that out there.
All right. So here, I'll tell you the perks of both. The arena in the Gilded Hollow, if get GVGs and the whole arena concept is your thing, which it is for a lot of guilds. In my opinion, is a lot better. It's easier, it's wider, it doesn't have the columns there, which you could do really weird things with. It appears larger, but I think it's about the same size. But more specifically, the spectator spots, where you can look at people fighting, it's much easier to access. You don't have to look over a balcony that's 40 feet in the air. It just feels more open and more accessible. It also, in the general location, it's much closer to where you'd port into the guild hall, so it's easier to get to, assuming you don't have the waypoint. That said, the lighting in the Gilded Hollow is really bad. Really bad.
Yes.
I can't get over it. I'm trying to like it. I really am, Bridger. I'm trying to like it. But the lighting in Gilded Hollow is, it's a cave. It looks like a cave, and it has the lighting of a cave, and it is very dark, and even when it's daytime, it looks very dreary and just makes you want to go to sleep. Like if you were to AFK on it, you'd want to go to sleep. I mean, because that's the kind of guild hall it is. Whereas Lost Precipice, the Colosseum is like something you'd expect out of Gladiator. It's a Colosseum. It's bright. It's sandy. It's very in your face brightness. The contrast is way up, and so it's very different in that aspect. Leaving arenas out of it, which is sort of like the focal point for guild hall activities right now. Lost Precipice, we've had the chance to explore all the nooks and crannies of Gilded Hollow. We did a big guild event. About 10, 15 of us went to all the areas, all the little special areas. We used our pumpkins and boxes and stuff to get to areas we weren't supposed to yet. Gilded Hollow doesn't have the really fancy dedicated areas that Lost Precipice does. That said, the original area in Gilded Hollow is much better laid out and designed and easier to get to everything. So it's a give take. Lost Precipice, when you explore all the outer areas, the outer mountains, there's these hidden cities. And you can only imagine that you as a player or a guild can decorate them. You can give this hall to this guildie, or these guildies can live in these houses and they can decorate it however they want. You could do that in Lost Precipice. There's like residences and cities and stuff outside of what you can actually see when you get to it. The Gilded Hollow, we've been to all the nooks and crannies. You don't really have that. It's like Gilded Hollow when you do the jumping puzzle, or when you don't do the jumping puzzle and you just use pumpkins to get everywhere, is more like exploring like Tomb Raider. You're exploring these ruin areas, but they typically don't involve like a lot of areas you can decorate, so to say. There's a lot of really good backdrops, a lot of good waterfalls and stuff, but there's not really an area like Lost Precipice. I'd say for all those out there that are wondering, if you explore the northeast corner of Lost Precipice, or if you get to the very top of Lost Precipice, you'll see what I mean. Whereas if you go to the northeast corner or southwest or southeast of Gilded Hollow, it's not, and you compare that to Lost Precipice, in my opinion, it's not as fancy or well decorated. Specifically the northeast areas. Lost Precipice, whichever developer designed that, did a really good job. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my opinion. Now, which one's better? It depends on what your priorities are. If your priorities are PvP and the arena, and that's the only thing you care about, and functionality, like being able to access all the vendors and stuff, then Gilded Hollow is your winner. If doing things outside of just the arena, and if you don't mind walking a little bit or flying or gliding a little bit, but you want nicer areas, like really like wow moments when you're exploring outside of that, then Lost Precipice is the winner for that.
Yeah, I have to. There's some things that I like. I mean, so a Gilded Hollow, the arena definitely it's a cleaner look, right? It's much easier to just, there's just this open view. Yep. But I feel like having that like much shallower angle looking at it doesn't make it as easy to see what's going on. When you're so much higher on the Lost Precipice arena, you can kind of just look down and get a top-down view and really see where people are in two-dimensional space on the arena floor. It also feels like Gilded Hollow is much bigger. Like the arena floor seems much bigger. I don't know. Maybe it's just an optical illusion, but it definitely seems much bigger. So the next piece that I wanted to look at here, I did explore those areas you're talking about as well in the Lost Precipice. I haven't explored them yet in the Gilded Hollow, but man, they made that whole place look good. They added a lot of waterfalls and fountains and things. And I'm still on Team Desert because of the lighting issue that you were discussing. Like it's just so weird and dark but shiny. It feels off.
It's very I don't know, very gaudy. The whole look of Gilded Hollow, but then again, it's more convenient too. I wish Lost Precipice had everything closer together. That would make it a lot nicer.
Yeah.
Where you didn't have to run across the long giant bridge every time you poured in, or and stuff. But I mean, we're nitpicking. They both have their qualities.
I have to say, I think the main thing is if they just took the waypoint that you come in at from Lost Precipice and put it over where the tavern is, everything would be as close as it is in the other one. Because except for the arena, you've got the tavern, the workshop, the market, and the war room all on those two tower things right there. And that's just as close, if not closer, than those buildings are in the Gilded Hollow. So to me,
Yeah, so it looks like your
placement.
issue with the stream is not you, Bridger, it's YouTube.
It appears to be YouTube. Yeah, I'm going to try putting Twitch back
So
up and we'll see what happens.
I would put Twitch back up and tell YouTube to fix their stuff.
So yeah, we'll throw Tales of Tyria back up there. So if people are having issue on YouTube, go ahead and try out the Tales of Tyria one and we'll see what happens. I've got the master audio copy that I can re-upload wherever later on. So anyway, back to guild halls. The issue that I had with the desert one is something that other people identified is those wind streams are not constantly on, and I think somebody berated the devs for that. Like, why is that not just always on? I have to go and activate it on the ground somewhere in order to get advantage of those gusts to use my glider to get around really easily on. So that's kind of disappointing. But as far as aesthetic, I like the desert one. I just don't like the fact that everything's gilded. I don't know why. The gold coloring is weird. But let's move on. So let's talk about the actual upgrading of the hall and the mechanical benefits it can give to you, because we're not really that far of the way through yet. I mean, as a guild, we've unlocked, I would estimate, like maybe 10 to 15% of the total possible unlocks. Does that sound about right? And we're among the furthest advanced.
There is this really, really nice spreadsheet that was linked on Reddit that shows all of the upgrades and stuff that you can plan out ahead and the costs and everything. We're about a fifth. Let me see here. Yeah, we're about a fifth of the way through. We're practically 23 now, guild level 20 or guild hall 23, and we're focusing on basically just power leveling the guild for the XP bonuses and the World v World perks. And I'd say we're about a fifth or a quarter of the way through. It's hard to say because Ethereum is the cap, is what gates everything. If you actually if you left Ethereum out of it, we're like a quarter of the way through. But if you include Ethereum and the total amount of Ethereum, we probably haven't even scratched a tenth of the upgrades because of the sheer amount of Ethereum needed in the higher upgrades. It's hard to say, but we're getting there. I think most guilds now, most larger guilds now are between level 18 and like 24. I think is the range.
Yeah, it seems like we're over the big hump. When Heart of the Thorns came out, a lot of the stuff was super expensive because nobody was farming it. But now that everybody knows the guilds need things like leyline tools and sparks and mugs and all of those things that are tradable on the auction house, but were in short supply because they were brand new before, that was very difficult because only a small fraction of the community was actually making or farming those things. Now that everybody knows that they're necessary, lots of people are out there, so the supply is flooding the market. I mean, even leyline tools, I think, are down near a gold now, if I'm not mistaken. And they were selling for 15 to 20 gold at least the first week when the game came out, because everybody knew that they were important and they knew they were needed to get your guild hall going faster, but they didn't know how to make them or how to find the stuff that was necessary. But now it's all out there. So we're over that difficult hump of how expensive it was to get this first couple of upgrades. And let's talk about, I guess, the different aspects of the guild hall. We talked a little bit about the arena. And the arena can give you, obviously, an arena. We've already unlocked tier 2 of the arena, and that is the thing that you actually need to get in order to use the arena. Tier 1 the tier 1 doesn't really get you anything, but
it doesn't give you anything.
Do anything. but once you unlock the Arena Restoration 2, then you can actually use the arena, but you only have 2 different sides. Later on, you can unlock and expand it by getting more sides or unlock more pillars and traps and things that can be put in the arena to make it more deadly or whatever. So that's another reason to consider the the desert one's higher vantage point to be more useful is if you put a bunch of stuff in the way on the Gilded Hollow, like as blockers, just to make it something other than just a flat plane, then it might be a little bit more difficult to see what's going on from a shallower angle. But anyway, so the arena seems like it would be very useful. Now, did they explain yet how you would invite people into your guild hall to have like an arena battle with another guild?
That's a big point of contention with a lot of GVG guilds and just guilds that want to scrim against each other in general. The way you do it right now is they have to join your guild, enter your guild hall, and then they basically flag back over. So if, let's say, in theory, you wanted to have a 5v5 or 10v10, those 10 players from the other guild would have to join your guild. You'd have to invite them all, get them into your guild ranks. Then they enter the guild hall, and then they have to tag back over to theirs, if they want to, in order to actually look like it appears this guild versus this guild. There's no way right now to actually, get somebody outside of your guild and say, just party up with me and join the guild hall. Like, join my instance. You can't do that. So it's a minor gripe. I mean, the only people it really affects is the people that don't have room for another guild. So if you're in 5 guilds already, and you want to enter somebody else's guild hall for a scrim or for PvP or what have you, you have to drop one of your 5 guilds, and that's a minor gripe for many. It's a big gripe for some, but the whole process is a little tedious, especially if you're doing GVGs or you're doing scrims, and you're constantly bouncing between all of these different guild halls to fight.
Either ArenaNet did not realize that there would be a large demand for inter-guild fights in these arenas, or they just, didn't have time to put a system in place. And maybe we'll see that, a couple months down the road, they'll add a button that allows you to invite or give like special invite privileges that let another guild come into your guild hall with some kind of temporary flag that lasts for 2 hours or something like that. That seems like
it's a quality of life thing, in the game. It just makes things easier. It'd be nice just to be able to hey, I'm hanging out with some guy that's in another guild, and he's like, yeah, come check out my little house I decorated. I'd like to be able to just check out his house.
That's true.
I can enter his home instance. I'd like to be able to enter his guild hall if he invites me. To check out what he's decorated. It's not a big thing right now because not a lot of people have decorations and stuff, but I do see in the future where guilds are going to have decoration contests and stuff. That's going to happen.
Absolutely. With the amount of stuff they give you, like chairs and choppers.
Yeah, or even arena decoration contests or jumping puzzle contests. There's actually a jumping puzzle contest on the forums right now.
And arenas, so somebody in the Twitch chat says that when Squad UI comes out, you can have them join your squad and invite them in that way. So somebody maybe there was a dev post about that. I wonder if we can find confirmation about that. So the other thing so the arena obviously allows you to do those things. There's a lot of other stuff in there though, because we do have so the mine doesn't seem to do anything except accelerate the production of other things in your guild hall for all intents and purposes, right? You got rate and capacity, and that's it for all intents and purposes. Nothing cool comes from the mine except that the mine gives you other stuff faster. And that's the one thing that we've been focusing on, because getting 1 Ethereum every 60 seconds means you're going to be really, really limited in how fast you can get your war room upgraded or your market upgraded or your arena upgraded or anything like that. So, so they said it in one of the guild chats. That's the source. Okay, so that does appear to be the case. So you're going to be able to use Squad UI to pull in other people. That's pretty useful.
And they may have fixed it already, but I've actually gone to some of these scrims, and the way they did it was they had to invite those people into the guild.
So here's another new way. They said if you walk up to the portal outside of the guild hall and you are grouped with one of the other guild's members who's already in their guild hall, then you can enter and it'll join their guild hall instead of yours.
Well, they should promote that some more. Because there's a couple of Reddit threads where I think that was not mentioned immediately, but share. That's awesome if that's possible. I mean, I guess if you already know how to get to the guild hall, assuming you could actually do that, you would have to walk up. It seems like it would be easier just to join their guild and then enter the guild hall, though, than to actually get through. Because were you there for the Gilded Hollow thing, Britt? I don't think you were.
I
For
wasn't
Gilded Hollow,
not for the Gilded Hollow. I was there for the first one, the Lost Precipice.
Right. Yeah. So getting to the front entrance of these guild halls takes a little bit of time. Joining the guild and just entering the guild hall seems to go a lot quicker and is a lot more convenient. I don't think too many people actually go out of their way to go all the way to that guild hall entrance and then enter, their instance. But if that's possible, that's great. I mean,
somebody else
for those
pointed
people
out,
that are capped out on guilds can do that.
Somebody else pointed out that that's an easy way to get into the Tangled Depths. Is you basically join your guild hall who is already there in the Gilded Hollow, and then you walk out the portal and you're in Tangled Depths, and you don't have to try and make your way through Verdant Brink or any other ones.
I never thought about that. That's cool.
So
it's unintended, but cool.
So we've got the mine that we talked about there that just gives you the excavation rate and things. So I can tell for people that are interested, we can tell you for sure that rate 1, 2, and 3 all increase the speed at which you get Ethereum by the same amount. It starts at 1 every 60 seconds, and each of those rate increases reduces the time by 10 seconds. So it's 1 every 60 seconds, then 1 every 50, 1 every 40, and we are currently at 1 every 30, and we have rate 3. Now, it is currently up for debate whether that trend continues or if there is some kind of diminishing returns in rate 4, 5, and 6. Because if rate 4, 5, and 6 all decrease the time by 10 seconds, then essentially you're going to get up to infinity Ethereum by the time you get to rate 6. That does require a level 37 guild hall. So I don't know, maybe by that point you've already probably gotten everything.
Well, we also had this debate about the Ethereum boost as well, because originally it was offering 2 seconds and then 2 seconds and then 2 seconds. We thought it was a percentage thing, but it wasn't, because when we were getting, let's see here, when we were getting 40 seconds, it was still 38 with the boost, and then it was like 58 with the boost. So it's almost like no matter what, the Ethereum boost does -2, no matter what you do. So it wasn't percentage based, which threw us off. But yeah, so our Ethereum right now is ticking at 30 a second. That's with 3 upgrades. Assuming you got the next couple of upgrades, which take off 10 seconds apiece, if it is linear, what happens when you get mining rate 6? Does it just instantly?
Yeah, Ethereum never depletes. You never have to worry about it again.
Or maybe at Ethereum or at mining rate 5, which is in theory 10 seconds per Ethereum, it then goes to 5 seconds or something. I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, even if if they do some kind of diminishing returns for 4, 5, and 6. Even if it goes down to like 10 seconds is the final rate 6 gets you all the way down to 10 seconds. 1 every 10 seconds is a ridiculous amount of Ethereum. You're just never gonna need that much of it by the time you get up there, I don't think. Like, the collecting of all of the materials required for the things is probably gonna take longer at that point than the Ethereum is gonna take to produce, even if it takes like 10,000 Ethereum. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Maybe the amount of Ethereum you need is scaling at the same rate as the amount that you can produce. So
I'd like to. There was like that spreadsheet I was talking about that shows the cost of everything. So grasp this number. If you were to get every upgrade right now, that's the spreadsheet there. If you were to get every upgrade right now, and just apply it all, the total cost is a little over 18,000 gold. I have to ask where ArenaNet thinks that a smaller guild, like we're a large guild. I have to ask where ArenaNet thinks a small guild can get 18,000 gold.
Yeah.
Like it's that, I never really weighted a lot of what these smaller guilds were saying when they were complaining. But they do have a point. Like these smaller guilds that are guild leaders and guild leaderships and just members of these smaller guilds, they don't like being in large guilds. They don't want to be in a 400-man guild. They enjoy their smaller guild. And for them, the guild hall upgrades are just as expensive as they are for our larger guild, but they don't have, it's like they're almost forced to be in a large guild or they have to like mass recruit or something in order to pay for all their upgrades. Or let's take away just a small guild. Let's say you're a small PvP guild that only does SPVP, that only does GVGs or something. But you don't want, obviously you don't want to recruit 200 more members just to get guild hall stuff. So you keep your 30, 40 guys. I mean, how is that fair for them to have to shell out 18,000 gold for those same upgrades as a 500 man guild would? And it seems like there's no proper solution, because on the opposite end, the devil's advocate here, if you scaled it, then larger guilds would just kick everybody out of their guild and make their guild a 5-man guild so that they wouldn't have to pay anything, then to get all their upgrades and reinvite everybody back.
Yeah.
So there's no proper way of doing it. But having looked at that spreadsheet, having looked at the cost of things like flax and stuff, I really, really feel bad for like super small guilds that probably can decorate their guild hall far better than I can, but will never get the chance to.
So yeah, I would like some feedback. I'd like some feedback from smaller guilds. I'm curious how they feel. Even like 50 or 100 man guilds are probably having a lot tougher time than we are. We've got about 300 to 400 people at the moment that are actively playing in our guild, and a large quantity of them are donating both gold and resources, which is making our guild upgrade fairly painless. As far as, every time we look and we have enough Ethereum for something, we also have enough resources for that thing.
Yeah.
So we got
an awesome crew, and the thing is, our members aren't any better or lesser than smaller guilds. It's just a smaller guild can only put out so much.
Right. They either have to tax their members essentially at a much higher rate, or they have to just take a lot longer to get the same things. Right. That's pretty much the only major choices they get as a smaller guild. But you're right. There's really, unless you were to come up with some very, very clever scheme, there's really no way to be able to allow a scaling mechanism for that without people being able to abuse it. At least not as far as I can think of. So the cost of that. But another thing to keep in mind, the cost used to be 22,000 gold. It's gone down like several thousand gold just over the last week or two, because, as we talked about before, those things that were in huge demand when every guild was looking for them are slowly losing that demand, because many guilds have now already finished with that portion of the guild hall, and they're not trying to get that same exact thing. Like, they don't need kegs because they got the 2 upgrades that need kegs, or they don't need glasses because mugs get the 2 upgrades that need mugs. All of that stuff is going to become cheaper and cheaper over time as the demand for it weakens. As the bigger guilds finally finish their guild halls, maybe a couple of months down the line, they are no longer going to need to get any resources. And all of those resources are going to be cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, because people are still going to be producing them naturally. People are going to be getting flax as they go through Verdant Brink. There'll be new people that are going through there, other people going through there. So I don't know. I feel like, and there'll eventually be an equilibrium, but I could see that going down to as little as, 12,000 gold, that much difference over the next couple of months. That's still a lot. That's still a huge amount. So let's not say like that's fine now.
12,000 gold's a lot to chalk up. I mean, maybe not so much for a larger guild, but for a smaller guild it is. We already hit on that, but it's a lot. 12,000 gold is not just simply something you obtain overnight. But it is over time, too. Keep that in mind.
So here's another thing that I kind of think what they needed to do was front load. They needed to front load some of these things, because it seems like if you were a smaller guild, even we have taken, what has it been, 3 weeks now or so, to start really seeing some significant mechanical advantages of having a guild hall. Everything's just been a ruin for like the last 3 weeks, but now we have a guy in our tavern who's giving everybody like a 6% bonus to their karma and XP and other stuff, right? That's a pretty mechanical bonus. Right. We've started being able to claim guild objectives in World v World and potentially use tactics and improvements, but not really. But
don't get me started
we'll get
on
to
that.
that later. But theoretically, we have the upgrades capable of doing those things, and you can start making decorations and stuff. So we're now just getting to that point. Smaller guilds are going to still be just sitting there grinding out the guild hall before even seeing any return on that for a long time, another month or two at least. So we'll see. We'll see how that. I mean, we'll see how that winds up going down. Now, that having been said, there's another issue that people have been identifying, and that's that guilds that are primarily focused on something other than PvE, whether it be PvP, as you already mentioned, or World v World guilds, are finding that they have to spend an enormous amount of time doing PvE content in order to get the materials needed to get over those humps. I mean, Flax is a perfect example, but there's also like the tools, the leyline infused tools require things you can only get in the jungle. I think it's the third and fourth zones.
Yeah.
So you can either buy those off the trading post, but some of the things I think that you know, if you want to craft them and do it the cheaper way, by getting your, just taking your guild out to Dragonstand and getting a bunch of flax or getting a bunch of leyline sparks, then you're going to have a really rough time. You're going to not be able to do it, what you want to do, which is play World v World or play PvP in order to get your arena upgraded and in order to get your World v World stuff upgraded. To be honest, I feel like the better way to have done it would have been to have each of those things unlock with much more standard resources, whether it just be like logs or mithril or whatever, and then the items themselves that you need for that thing be more closely tied to that thing in general. I mean, they already do that a little bit, right? The arena needs things like those PvP potions of XP, and the World v World one needs things like the tribute, the badges of tribute. That's great, but if they made it so that the war room was upgraded with things you only got in World v World, like, I don't know, siege diagrams or something like that, I feel like that would have been a way to avoid this issue where guilds feel like they're forced to play content that they don't enjoy when the whole thing of Guild Wars 2 is play the game you want to play, right?
It's one of those things, if you do nothing but SPVP, being like, and you want to unlock your arena and stuff, you got to go, upgrade and get your mining rate and capacity, which involves you getting shovels. And as an SPVPer, you don't want to go farm silver waste. Why would you do that? You're playing Guild Wars 2 to play SPVP, The way I see it, there's two solutions to this. You can make all of those bound items unbound. And ArenaNet has said that some of the items are actually unintentionally bound. Things like paper, for example, are supposed to be able to be sold on the auction house. So that's one thing. But also, they've also mentioned that they're going to be adding these things to reward tracks as well. Now, how does that help a World v World guild? Well, it doesn't. But I sort of feel like, if they were available to be bought with the universal currency that is gold, which you can earn in every game mode, then we wouldn't be having this discussion and it'd be okay. If I was doing nothing but World v World, earning my money through World v World, and had gold piling up from World v World, which is not too hard if you're efficient at it, I could buy those potions of PvP reward and unlock my arena. Or I could buy those leyline infused tools and unlock, this or that without actually exiting. They're still addressing this, though. They haven't said, like, this is how it's going to be, deal with it. They haven't said that. They have gone out and said, we're going to be adding things to reward tracks. We're going to be adding things to loot tables. There are certain items that shouldn't be bound that are bound. They haven't come out and said they're fixing scribing. Cough, cough. But, yeah, it'd be not. I know my little old thread from, like, day 2 of launch that, where I was like, ArenaNet, please help. Fragments are missing, is now hundreds and hundreds of people screaming it, and they still haven't addressed it.
It's possible that's by design because they didn't finish scribing above that level.
There's a lot of tinfoil hat conspiracies there, Bridger. I've talked to a lot of guild leaders, a lot of guild leaderships, and you'd be surprised. A lot of them have the tinfoil hats on and think that ArenaNet could not finish scribing or that part of the game in time, like the World v World stuff. You have to have scribing to build those schematics to upgrade those things. An example is like Chilling Fog, which you can get very early on. We have. And so to get Chilling Fog, you have to upgrade Scribing past the level that ArenaNet is currently allowing you to upgrade past. So maybe, as some of these guild leaders have said, Chilling Fog doesn't work or isn't in the game yet. So to prevent that, let's not let the player base actually use those World v World upgrades that we haven't tested out, or there's a lot of conspiracies.
Yeah, it's very clever. They've got the Tactivators. They've got the
got
Tactivators there. They've been taunting us with the Tactivators, but they don't do anything until Scribing is fixed.
Yeah, and we're not saying, saying in chat there, we're not saying you should be able to use everything right away. But for many guilds, they've unlocked a lot of these World v World upgrades that they should be able to craft with Scribing already. But ArenaNet has unofficially, or without actually saying it, said no, you can only craft up to 150 Scribe. Sorry, sucks to be you. And they haven't actually given a reason why or addressed it, and that's why it's no longer just me. It's lots of people are upset about it, and not just people that want to upgrade Scribe, but now this is also starting to affect World v World, because you're getting all these upgrades, but you can't craft them yet because Scribing is limited. And a lot of people are. I'm not going to put on a tinfoil hat, but it's just we ran into this in the launch of Guild Wars 2, where they did not have certain items that were necessary to advance certain crafts or certain areas in the game, and they ended up coming out and saying 2 to 3 weeks later, oh, we're sorry. It was a missed flag, I believe was one of the reasons, where they just forgot to flag an item to be available at a vendor for them to purchase. But this is even far simpler than that, Bridger. So these fragments for Scribe are not bought from a vendor.
Yeah, for those of you that they're resonating fragments are how you so it's similar to slivers and fragments, and I believe that goes all the way up to
So before anybody jumps
cores.
the gun and says, oh, you get these from guild missions. No, you don't. You get slivers from guild missions. Slivers are the base little blue gemstone you get when you do a guild mission, and you get them, and they sell for about 40 to 60 silver. And the market's going crazy with them. If you look at GW2 Spidey, they bounce between 40 and 80, and nobody knows what to do with them because you can't do anything with them right now besides get some early crafts. But fragments, just like all the other stuff that leads up to lodestones, fragments assumingly come from double-clicking slivers, and then you get a fragment, because that's how other slivers work, and that's how other fragments work for the most part. But that doesn't work. And while fragments are in the game code and actually have an item code, you can't get them in any which way whatsoever. So when it comes to guild halls, getting back to the main point, it's no longer just affecting scribes that want to build decorations for their guild hall.
Yeah.
It's now starting to affect World v World guilds that have unlocked higher tier World v World schematics, but it requires like 200 scribing or 225 scribing, which they can't get yet. And it's starting to be a bummer. Now, that said, Bridger, ArenaNet, you heard about the news with raids and stuff, right?
That we're finally getting the squad UI and the raids. They're coming in a big patch later this month, right?
Right. There's a lot of rumors that a lot of these progression blocking things, and fragments aren't the only thing, is going to come out with that patch. Nobody knows really when that patch is going to drop. They just said mid-November. So things like squad UI, fixing resonating fragments, hopefully, opening up the first wings of the 10-man raid, all of that stuff is going to start coming out assumingly within the next couple of weeks. So we'll see what happens. I remain optimistic.
Now, there's another person that's affected by the scribing issue. There are some legendary weapons that, you can get the precursors if you do this big event chain and stuff, if you go through and do the masteries, that require 300 scribing to start that journey to do the legendary precursor crafting. So they can't even start the journey. Like, they went and grinded all the masteries up to get the legendary mastery chain all done, and then you need 300 scribing. Okay. Well then, guess I can't
was not
do
aware
that.
of that.
So that's another thing. Now, other people have been having issues with scribe beyond that. It's very expensive to level up because it requires the dye the dies that you have to buy off the auction house for the most part, unless you want to buy gems and buy them on that thing there. That's another tinfoil hat thing. Like, oh, scribing is just a profession so they could get more people to buy gems and get dies that way. Another thing is that you can, other people point out that you can craft the pigments. If you're a cook, I believe that you can do it.
You can, yeah, like that. And that's how most of them end up on the auction house. It's all of this is solved if they fix fragments, because then you can do that. You can do guild decorating. You can do World v World upgrades, which are fun the way that you craft those and use those. And we'll go over World v World stuff in a future episode, I'm sure. Yeah, it's scribing. The 10-man raid, when it comes out, they've said that you'll be able to craft the initial stages of your legendary armor, and we'll see how that works. I just find it a little interesting, as much as I'm loving Guild Wars 2 right now, that this expansion promised all this stuff, to be ready and available, but it almost appears like they didn't finish a lot of things, and they're now trying to rush it out in patches. But that's my own little thing. Otherwise, the content stuff's amazing.
Yeah, and we have, and I'm really, because there is that last piece that we haven't really examined yet at all. Is the thing that's the guy that gives you your guild hall to begin with has a few upgrades that you can buy directly from him for gold. And one of them is like a deeper exploration. Like when you've got all this other stuff, you can explore further. And we're pretty sure that, that's what you were talking about. You can get to those secret areas if you do enough pumpkin jumping puzzles to get to them. But it's going to be really cool to have them be an official, actual part of the guild hall once we get there. And they are going to be the places that are where people make their own little homes and houses and decorate them with things. And we're very much looking forward to seeing how that plays out. But I'm very happy with, in general, the way the system works. My main criticism is that the UI could have been a little better. There's a couple of situations where you're just like, why couldn't that have been a new tab in the guild UI? Why did I have to walk up to this guy in order to see what upgrades are available? I kind of wish I could just switch through them. If I was talking to any of them, I should be able to just look at all of them. And I don't know. It's very serviceable, but the one thing that I really wish it had was some just list, like every member that is in the game and what they've donated. Like, maybe that would be too difficult to put in there, but that would have been nice because we're tracking it all manually.
Yeah, we're having to track it manually, but I think it's been requested by a lot of guilds to be able to, I kind of speak on behalf of a lot of guild leaders, when they'd like to be able to see not just the recent history of donations, but be able to see, like, all right, I have these 50 members. These are the ones that have pitched in. This is the total they've pitched in. Like, I don't see why it would be a little too hard. I don't, to be able to look at your roster, click on a member, and maybe right click them and see what their deposit and withdrawal history is or something like that.
Yeah.
I gotta imagine that's in the databases, because obviously they're recording when things are being deposited and withdrawn, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's on your logs. So that's there. The logs are there. Assuming they keep those logs over a period of time, which I assume they do, you would think that you can, as a guild leader, you'd be able to click on your members and see, because guild halls are no joke when it comes to resources. And guild leaders and guild leaderships like to know when somebody deposits 50 leyline tools. That's a lot of money, or empty kegs. Those are 6 gold a pop right now, Bridger. Yeah. And you got to have, just for Tavern Upgrade 2, you got to have 100 of those.
Yep.
And with a larger guild or even a smaller guild, if somebody deposits 30 to 40 of those, I want to know. That guy essentially just deposited hundreds of gold.
Yep.
Of his own money into the guild hall. And it's very easy to miss that in the log with everything else going on. And it's very easy to forget that if you're not recording it manually like we are, down the line. These are just little quality of life improvements, but I think it's possible. I think they can pull off something like that and therefore add some transparency. Or maybe have a quest or something where, it rewards guild members for depositing. Or dare I say it, and excuse me, but a lot of people are going to get upset about this, but why not implement some sort of tax system? Guilds are already doing it right now as it is. They're doing it unofficially.
And that's
They
a
are.
much more drama-ridden way to do it.
I'm going to get flack for that. I know, but guilds are already doing this, Bridger. A lot of what you would call high-end guilds or hardcore guilds or semi-hardcore guilds are requesting anywhere from 10 to a gold deposited weekly or bi-weekly or whatever every single day. Or not every day, but bi-weekly every month, and that's how they pay for things. So when it comes to an empty keg needing to be deposited, they can do that. And this is happening more often than we think. We don't have this. We haven't needed to, but other guilds are doing this to sort of cover those costs. Why not implement a very simple tax system, or something that allows players to not have to worry about whether they're depositing a certain amount lesser or greater than other members, but where they can just pay their little amount and it's called the guild hall tax or something, right? Where it automatically does it, and then suddenly costs aren't an issue anymore, because if the leadership knows what they're doing, they'll set the taxes accordingly, and then they never need to actually go up to a member and say, hey, can you help pitch in?
And that could be used for so much more than just the guild hall. I mean, we've had situations where we took some money out of the guild bank in order to pay for one of our members to join us on Northern Shiver Peaks, because they just didn't have the cash and they wanted to run with us in World v World, and they'd already gotten to know us really well, and we could tell, we've used that. Or somebody that just, oh man, I just came back, but I'd really like to play this, but I don't have the money to get, exotic gear or extended gear. We can throw them some cheap or quick stuff, whatever. I don't know. I mean, there's so many more things you could do as a community if you could make that more automated and less reliant. It's not reliant, but more like open to parasites, I guess. Right? Isn't that really what you're worried about?
You run into two problems with tax. One, you could have corrupt leaderships that can tax and then they just pocket all the gold. But there's ways around that. You can have like a guild fund, right? Like the guild bank already has places to put money in it. What if you made a guild fund that can't be withdrawn by players, where that money only goes to buying stuff that deposits directly into the treasury? Imagine that.
Yeah.
So there's ways around this, and it's I can't imagine it's that hard to implement. So imagine like you put in a 10 silver tax per week or something like that. It all goes into a fund, and a guild leader or a guild leadership or officers with the permission can access the black market, check a box that says use guild funds to go to treasury or something like that, and then they buy what they need off the market. You're stimulating the market by buying things. You're not allowing individual players to take that gold, and you're building onto your guild hall at the same time.
You're right. I mean, there have been situations where I saw, okay, we're going to need this upgrade, and it's going to require these things. I'll go and buy some stuff from the market, but it's going to cost 10 gold or whatever. So I go take 10 gold out of the guild bank, I buy the thing, and then I deposit the stuff in the treasury. But I'm kind of worried, like, I know there are other people looking at this, and I was like, I just want to make sure they know that this is on the level. So I have to go tell the people, hey, by the way, that 10 gold I took out, it was for those kegs that I put in there, and you can see it's right in the history. But I don't want you to miss that and think that I'm like a scoundrel.
Yep. And because the history isn't there, I could go behind and say, oh, who took out 200 gold? And because the history passed it up, and I can't right click you, Bridger, it's like, oh, wait a second here.
No, honestly, I did deposit the kegs.
Bridger deposited kegs. I wonder if that 200 gold actually was entirely for those kegs.
At the time, we're going to go back in time. Hang on. It doesn't have a date, but I think that was 3 days ago, and kegs were 3 gold less than they are now.
That's a nice, fancy new ascended weapon you have there.
All right. Yes. You caught me. I love ascended gear. No, I hate ascended gear. But okay. One thing that I did learn recently, actually, the trinkets have higher percentage-wise stats in comparison to the exotics than the weapons and armor, because they remember they added trinkets first as the main place where you'd get ascended stuff, and then later on they added the ability to craft your weapons and armor. But the trinkets all are like, I think, 10% stronger relative to exotics, whereas the armor and weapons are only about 2% stronger than the exotics of those types. And I guess the reason for that...
You're looking at just raw stats. You got to look at power too. The raw power. I mean,
you mean like the toughness and the power on the weapon?
No, 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 no. So you're just looking at stats when you say that, and it's true. It's like the stats are only about on weapons like 2 to 3% more depending on what stats you have. But you also have to consider the base damage of the weapon is higher as well. So
Okay,
you
so
attribute
right,
that.
that's the toughness on the armor and the damage on the weapon also are need to be
Right.
factored into what you're talking about. I see. So even though
Yeah.
so the stats go up by 2%, but then the power and or toughness in the case of the armor
Yeah,
goes up, and that's
are
supposed
also
to make up
increased.
for it.
The general concept is that ascended gear is anywhere depending on what set you get and the way that stats scale, because there's no absolute,
Hmm.
but depending on what stats you're getting and how they scale with your skills, you're looking at 4 to arguably 8% increase
Hmm.
for ascended stuff, and that's not going into effusions. So that adds even more down the line. You could say it adds another 0.5% if you have
Yeah.
all your infusions.
All right. Anyway, I just thought that was my today I learned thing, and then I learned again. Thank you. So,
And we
don't
learned that you took gold out from the guild bank, and we
I
never knew.
told you about that time. So why don't we call it for the day here? Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Hoping to get the issue fixed in the future for dual streaming here, and that should be taken care of by next time. Also taken care of by next time. Hopefully, we'll be able to talk about the new squad UI and maybe resonating fragments. Huh? Maybe.
Squad UI is going to be amazing.
Oh, we got a taste of it during the beta. They had it on for a very short period of time, but it, it bugged it. You remember when every commander crashed in World v World that was using it and couldn't get back on in the game at all? that was kind of a weird thing. We were leaderless people. All right, so hopefully that won't happen when the expansion comes out. But thanks, guys, for tuning in. Feedback at talesofcitizens.com is where you can send us your questions or comments.
Let us know what you think is the best guild hall.
Yes,
And
tell us
why? Because maybe we don't know something about the guild hall that you guys found
Yeah.
out, or some trick or something.
Tell us which one is better and why, and let us know if it lived up to your expectations. That's the question of the week. Which guild hall is better, and did the whole system live up to your expectations, or is it a big problem? And we're probably going to hear from a lot of small guilds saying it's horrible, it's a waste of money and time, and we're never doing it out of protest. That'll be interesting to hear. All right, thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you
is
guys.
11/22. There it is.
And Bridger's going to fix his internet.
Yeah, if my cable company does. Man, I tell you what, we've been perfectly stable now. YouTube says they haven't been lagging at all. I've been at 2,000 on YouTube and 1,400 on Twitch. It must have just been some hang up with YouTube during the middle of the show where it started lagging like crazy. That's
Bridger,
too bad.
you know my opinion. I don't know why you stream on YouTube, but
Because I like the YouTube stream better. But, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll make the Twitch one be the official one for a while, at least until YouTube calms down.
yeah, the reality is you do a lot more streaming and podcasts and stuff than I do, but I just feel like YouTube is still like in its infancy.
It is. I was trying to get it on the ground
It's not ready
floor.
yet. It's not ready for you, Bridger.
But yeah, I mean, we'll try next week with the Twitch one as the higher quality stream. That way, if we do have problems, we'll leave that one up and I'll upload it later. It's just so here's the real advantage that I like. If YouTube works, which it had in the past, like I said, I did 30 episodes of Tales of Citizens with none of these issues, and I think still a lot of it has to do with my cable company changing their speed requirements for the various tiers. But the thing that I really like about YouTube is I can give somebody the link to a future show, and if they click on it, it'll say, 2 days, 21 hours, and 30 minutes until this show goes live. And so that's really useful. I can schedule things.
Oh, you can create like a permanent link
I can,
to a specific
yes,
show.
Exactly. So if they click on that, it'll show them the future. They can click on that and they'll open a web page and it'll say, this show will be live at this time. And then after the show is over, people go to that promotional link. It'll take them to the recording of the show. And that is really useful. I don't have to like go back to a post and edit in, oh, by the way, the video can now be found here. Everybody just automatically gets to the recording of the video because that's YouTube that did that, and that was brilliant of how they have it set up. And like I said, I am gonna upgrade our internet next couple weeks and see if, although with the amount of we'll be there between the hours of 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. kind of nonsense, maybe it'll take longer than 2 weeks. We'll see what the schedule is, because I can't just ask them to push a button. It says that they have to come out to my house and install it. Even though I'm using my own modem and nothing of that has to change, they still have to come do something at my house. I don't know why. Maybe they have to test the line to make sure it's actually applicable. But I have to pay $50 to have somebody come up here in order to upgrade, to pay them $20 a month more. I need to pay the cost of having somebody come out here and look at our line, I guess. Oh well.
Seems a little sketchy.
Yeah. I'm still going to do it because I love you guys and I want to make it more stable. And I hate that that this has caused issues in the last couple of shows. But it's going to be frustrating for me because, well, Cox is an okay internet. There's no Comcast, to tell you what. So I shouldn't be complaining because it could be worse. I could have Comcast.
Do you do Tales of Citizens on Twitch as well?
Yeah, but like I said, I did for 30 episodes. 33 episodes of Tales of Citizens.
I've always just turned into your YouTube one, but I didn't know you did it on Twitch as well.
Yeah, I did it on Bridger 15. And I did 2200 kbps on YouTube and 2000 kbps on Twitch. It's not even that much lower. It's only 200 kbps less on Twitch. And that worked flawlessly for 32 episodes of Tales of Citizens. And then the most recent episode of Tales of Citizens 3 weeks ago started to show issues. And anyway, I will examine possible courses of action and do some tests before the next Tales of Citizens and see what I can do to fix it. All right, with that having been said, we've got Worldview World, and EB is filling up already because of some of the issues with the Borderlands. So I'm going to jump off here and jump into Guild Wars 2.